Good morning, everyone. Once again, we've got another beautiful day. It's not what my friends in Minnesota were saying this morning, but they'll be here next week, so I think they'll be happy with the sunshine. Thank you, each and every one of you, for coming. This is our third talk this season. The first one, we had the Seminole talk that we co-opted with the library, which is an excellent talk and a great attendance that day. Last week, of course, you all know you were all thrilled and enjoyed and listened about all the smuggling and things in Boca Grande by David Hutch. And he was so pleased to be here. I think he's already on the road to Texas. But he did sell some books downtown, and I think Carolyn has probably gotten her shipment in. So his books are still available at the Tide and also online, and I think at the Gas Berlin. So just welcome everyone. I've got a great group of the historical board here today. If you can raise your hand. Thank you all for being here to support us. We've also got some historical people here. Some of you have been coming, I think, probably since day one to History Bytes. We really appreciate the support. This is the 25th year of History Bytes that Sally Van Italy and Bob Edick had the brainstorm to put together to do this program. And this season, our series is dedicated to Bob Edick, who passed away this summer. He was our archivist and our first actual participant in digging and getting into the history, literally, on Boca Grande and surrounding areas. He was the author of this book, Fisher Folk of Charlotte Harbor. Sadly, it is out of print, but the hopes is that maybe at some time it will be back in print. You can look for it on Amazon. I know the library has a copy, and I'm not sure if Bytes has any more or not. Maybe one or two. But if you're interested, you can certainly look this up and look at the library. Bob was a very interesting person, as well as his wife, Linda, who might make it here again today. She's having some tests run. Her daughter, Darlene, and son, Dennis, they all came here in the late 70s, and they actually camped on Coal Island in the very beginning. Coal Island is where Boca Grande North is, and it was actually a campground at that time. And they lived off the land, lived on the water, in the mangroves, just really enjoyed life here. And Bob, being an archaeologist, studying all the waters and everything in the surrounding areas. I don't want to read a lot from the book, but this book is oral histories, and it's just so interesting to see the work that was put into it. One of the things that is also interesting to me is his friend Charlie Blanchard worked with him also. Charlie passed away just a few weeks ahead of Bob. Charlie also was very much a part of our History Center from the very beginning, and he wrote this book, New Words, Old Songs. Charlie played the keyboard and sang at PJ's Sea Grill for quite some time, a couple times a week during the 80s. And it was quite, people would come, they loved to hear him sing. And he and Bob played the flute, and he would play the keyboard, especially on St. Patrick's Day. But just a couple things to say. During 1990 and 1992, it was the year of the Indian project Charles Blanchard and Bob organized. They trained over 600 Lee County school teachers in local archaeology. In addition, more than 5,000 students received hands-on classroom demonstrations and field trips to the Pineland archaeology site. This project funded the oral histories of senior fishermen, and it all goes back to understanding the prehistoric days of the Calusa, the Indians, and how it moved into the fisher folk, and how our waters and our richness of living in the island area can still teach us, and we have to be so careful of our environment this day. So this is a great read, and Bob was a great contributor, and he said, tell my story. One other thing I just said to one of our board members, that I will address this. I'm not a Whiddon. Whiddon's Marina is up for sale. I married into the family, and they're not excited about selling, just so people know. It's not like, oh wow, look at those dollar signs. The family really did not want to sell, but because of a few family members that are not on island, they're being pressured to sell. So the sale is up. It is a historical building, and the museum, the Maritime Museum that is inside the Red Gill Fish House, is a separate entity. It is owned, the building and the Red Gill Fish House is owned by Whiddon's Marina. The museum is a 501c and it's a nonprofit. So whatever happens to the building, the museum is not part of the sale. But you know, things are up and down and everywhere. But the Boca Grande Historical Society obviously is very interested in helping us preserve anything that we can preserve if that comes to a fact. So just to kind of let everybody know that I'm not getting $17 million. But we are moving. The Historical Society, as you know now, we're closed because of the hurricanes, and Kim is working out of her kitchen, Rosemary and Jim are working out of their home, everybody's working out of their homes. But we're moving to the Crown Angel House. So when the Crown Angel House is completed, this is the plan that they're working very diligently on now to have the History Center set up in. And we need lots of, we're going to need lots of help fundraising, volunteers to help put this together when time comes. There'll be a lot more to come on it. It's down the road a piece, but they're definitely working on it very hard. So we will be hopefully next year this time inside the Crown Angel if we have no more storms and the county gets everything put together. We're looking forward to this great space, and anybody that is interested in working to help volunteer when it comes time, or have anything that you would like to donate or see, we'd love to have it. That also goes for anything we have that you have now. Just don't bring anything to them now because they have nowhere to store it. I think I told most people last week that fortunately the county had told everyone they had to move out of the buildings before Milton hit, after Helena. So with Kim and Sandy Melvin and Jim and quite a few other people, Rick Montgomery rapidly got the History Center packed up and to safety, so we did not lose a lot this time in the last storm. So we were blessed with that. A few other things I'd like to mention is Boca Grande Charities is our sponsor this season, which is Sandy Melvin, Robin Melvin, and their Sandy's board. They they do kids charities, they do the Kids Classic in the tarpon season where they take all the kids fishing. They have different sponsors that pay for the captain, that pay for the boats, and they have a big party for him, and that's a fundraiser for his charities. And they also do a fly fishing tournament called GIFT, Gasparilla Island Fly Fishing Tournament in the fall, that is open to anyone to join, and that money goes in, and he's donated both of those this season to the Historical Society, and he's donating to sponsor the tents and the setup, and Rick with Island TV to be able to film this for us. So thank you to Boca Grande Charities. Last week's History Bite with David Fudge is on our History Center website now, as of I believe yesterday. Rick with Island TV is working with us this year, so about a week after each talk, you will be able to go see it on the History Center. And you can look at past ones also. So that's a great addition we have. One of the things that Bob did for us, when Bob worked with us with History Bytes, first off, we had a recording. We had somebody taking notes, and then we had a recording, and then they had to be transposed. And so we got a lot of disjointed History Bytes from years past. And then later years, he filmed the History Bytes. So Bob was a great contributor to us, and we're so thankful for him. I just want to, at this point, with not a lot of words, there's too many words to say about Dusty Hopkins. Come on up here, Dusty, it's your turn. Dusty is the publisher and owner of the Boca Beacon, and he purchased it back in '88, and we've been friends ever since. He's going to tell lots of stories. We have so many memories together. We were on target tournament committees forever. He and Daniel filmed and judged every target tournament that's been around. We worked on the community center board. He's been on the Crown and Shield board. He worked with Dee Wheeler and I back in the day when we were doing the community center projects, and anything we had, any program, anything for the kids, whether it was a craft class, a parade, a mud slide, a play, whatever, Dusty's always been there photographing it. Thank you, Dusty.
Thank you.
She's reminding me of so many things that I'd already forgotten. First, I thought I'd tell you about how I came about finding and discovering Boca Grande and the Boca Beacon. I went to University of Florida, so I was here in 1963. Service took me all over, but I was working in Fort Myers. My first wife had just gotten a job at Fort Myers as the publisher of the Fort Myers Express. I came into town, and the next day the sheriff comes by and asks me if I want to go fishing. And I thought it was a ploy, but I said I'll go. And he brought me to Boca Grande Pass when the phosphate structure was full. It was there. And I was just in awe. I mean, you're coming up across the pass, and you see that, and we fished for a while, and it did real well. But then he took me. He was going to show me the island. So we had the boat. We scooted up to the island. There was nothing but mangroves. Nothing but mangroves. On and on. Nothing. The mangroves. And then all of a sudden you get to Miller's Marina and you see life, and you go back to that little channel and there's a marina. And we had lunch at the Pink Elephant, and that was 1983. And then years later, 1988, Creighton Sherman, who was on a leadership lead program with, he was the director of the GICI back then, and he knew Terry, and he decided, you got to come up and check our newspaper out, the Boca Beacon. And,
it may be for sale.
Said, okay, we'll do that. We came up, and they came up by boat again from Boca Grande. I mean, up the Clusatch River, Fort Myers to here. We actually tied up to Australian pines in the pass. I mean, you just pull up to the shore. There's not a tree near there now. But we tied up and walked into town. Got picked up. And I'm going so many different directions here. But anyway, so the paper was discussed, and we decided it would be a really great fit for us. We love the island. We came up many weekends just to check things out and things like that. And so that's when we decided to buy the paper in 1988 and came to Boca Grande. Marnie Banks had started the paper, I believe in roughly 1980, and she ran it for 2 years, for 10 years as a bi-monthly paper. I bought the paper from her. The paper she started, she actually didn't have an office. She actually started the paper on her front porch on Tarpon Avenue.
Palm Avenue.
Palm. And that was the office. I mean, she just started it up, and there was just a couple of local people like Patty Middleton and David Futch and things like that were around to help her. Actually, her first partner when she started the paper was a guy named Jack Harper. And that didn't last very long, but Jack Harper also owned Miller's Marina. Sidebar, Jack Harper was my fraternity brother at the University of Florida. And he was the halfback for the Florida Gators when Steve Spurrier was the quarterback. So, small world. We came around. But so Marnie had done that, and Marnie had a daughter, Joanna, and how many people would know her first husband, her husband? 1, 2, 3. That was Jonathan Banks, the TV star. He made movies. He was a character in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul and some other things. He was the heavy that they played there. But so I was coming into when I got here, the first thing you noticed about the Boca Grande was the sense of family. That was the years that time when there was a group of 10, 15 families with kids. I mean the whole, and grandfathers and all this kind of stuff, and that was a sense of the island had. It was a group of kids. We all went closer. Yeah. We all went to everything together. I mean, we'd all go to the beach together. We'd have cookouts at the state park, and the sense of family, kids, everything like that was just. We all go to each other's house. We all. I can't say party together, but it just ended up grouped together. Where someone was saying, "We'll feed you, bring something to eat, fish fries and things like that."
Karaoke at Sisters.
Karaoke, it says we can't talk about that.
That was the kids.
Well, the kids, yeah. I mean, the kids were in on things like that. So, when I talk about Boca Grande, first thing I can add is if I came in 1988. If I came today, I couldn't afford to live here. Okay, I couldn't afford to buy a house. And I got there and I bought Dumplin' Wheeler's old house on Belcher, which is the last street on the island. And then that house had history. It was built in the 1920s, and Dublin had it, and then they rented it out. And I think the first girls to rent it were all of there were 5 girls who lived in that house that rented it. Ruthie and her sisters and things like that. And then from the house, that reminds me that the Belcher Road was the last street on there, and as you well know from the history part of it, the old church, the Angry Chapel, was back in referred to as the Black Church, and the parking lot there had the houses, domestic, they call it domestic housing for all the workers on the island.
Tarpon Bay Estates.
Yes.
Tarpon Bay Estates is what it was called.
Yeah. And I've come across pictures that people have shown me of all the kids playing, on the beach and down near the houses and riding bikes and things like that at the very, very end of the island. But that's just that sense of family. I got a list of the people that were there: Braxton Bowen, Reggie Norman, John Knight, the Spurgeons at Lin's on Limb, Guy Batzel, JT and Kathleen Turner, Terry and Barbara Sykes, Captain Phil Woods, Brad Baldwin, the Whitten family, Nat Italiano, Don Moore, and everyone had kids. This is the big difference. That right now we don't have that many families that have that whole thing of hassle of kids. Just reading their names, it reminds me of other stories. The Captain Phil Woods. I think when I felt like this is my island, I love it here, I'm not leaving, was with Captain Phil Woods. I was out in the jog one morning, and I stopped at Miller's Marina, and I'm at the marina, and I get one of their free cups of coffee, and I'm sitting on the dock, standing on the dock right there, and Captain Phil Woods slips up in front of me. We introduce each other, he doesn't know me, and says, "Want to go fishing?" And it's like everything flashed in front of me. I don't have to ask anybody. Can I go fishing? What I need? And it was such joy just to say, "Sure," and step right on his boat, and we were gone. So that was a cement moment for me. It was like, this is my place. I'm staying. Terry Sykes,
Mark Shavitsky.
Let me tell you about Mark. Mark and I both lived, when we moved here, I actually moved north to get here. I was in Fort Myers, we moved north, and Mark Shavitsky came from Fort Myers also and got here, but we didn't know each other. But Mark had to be the best friend I ever had. He did things for me, I did things for him. There was never questions about whether they can or can't help you or do something like that. And that was it. I mean, Mark owned. How many people may have known Mark Shavitsky? Okay, you need to hear about this man. He loved this island. His first business here, probably not his first, and probably his second, because he was such a phenomenon at starting things. He owned the restaurant called Bogart's, which became the theater restaurant. So he was in that thing. He got, I'll say, bored with that, and then he started Gulf to Bay real estate. Okay, he worked that for 3 or 4 years. Then he got bored with that, and I credit him with being a little smarter than me, at least me, is because why was he doing all these things? I like the newspaper business, I was fine, but he kept wanting to do something else, and he got the idea that the island was changing, okay? And instead of all these little cottages and things like that, people were starting to build bigger houses and then putting in landscaping. And then, and then you used to be able to put some sheep on there and goats out there and it would eat it. But now, he said, I'm going in the landscaping business. And he was just ahead of the curve, because sooner or later, there were so many plants on the street, you couldn't walk between the houses. Yeah. I don't think I mentioned that Mark and I were Harley Davidson motorcycle buddies. That had a lot of weekends. Mark was also, after that, Mark was our chief judge for the tarpon tournaments, the world's richest tarpon tournaments, and then that was a full-time job right there. But Mark could make a decision like that and stick with it and be right. And when in fishing, you have to do that. And he herded all those cats together and ran a really good tournament. He was always the judge. Betsy and I were on the original tarpon committee. I can tell you how we came to be involved in the tarpon tournament. This is the transition from Shavitsky. The tarpon tournament used to be an invitational tournament and was run by the Boca Grande Club. And to them it was a sales tool. They had it, it was very successful. They would invite people to come up here and fish the world's richest tarpon tournament, which at the moment was. Yeah. And then in those days, they actually thought they could the Chamber of Commerce took over the tournament in 1990. This is a tarpon tournament shirt when I was tournament director in 2002. And I was tournament director twice. And she was too. But in the early days, before we took it over, they actually took the tarpon out of the water, weighed them, and then Moat Marine volunteers would come and try to save the tarpon. They would actually get in the water and walk a wounded tarpon around in wasting water. And then try to get water over their lungs and let them go. I think a couple got away, but it wasn't really always a successful attempt. The Chamber of Commerce took it over. And I remember we had a meeting with John Carper and the tournament, the Chamber of Commerce board, and I had to make a pitch to say, this is what we need to take this tournament over. Because one, it raised money. Two, it was really successful. I mean, there were 60 boats out there paying $5,000 each to fish, and then split the money up. So the fishing, the Chamber took it over.
That was a fundraiser. Fundraiser was for the scholarship fund.
Right. That's when we decided that we was the Chamber of Commerce split off another 501c3, which was just to receive money for the scholarship fund. So we got in the scholarship business with the Women's Club and the churches and the Guns Shield and the Art Alliance. They were all giving scholarships, but it was a pretty good event. The tarpon tournament, I guess I can't remember what the exact reasons, but it became less popular because the fishing guides were demanding that we change the dates. The original tarpon tournament was in July. It was in July for a reason. The fishing is almost over, but it extended Boca Grande's season another week or two. So the merchants and everybody, we had an extra week or two of business, because after July, August, this place gets a little sleepy. there's not just nobody around. But the chamber went through it. They had to change the dates to the guys wanted better fishing. The participants in the tournament wanted better parties. We had street parties back then. I think we can talk about the street parties. but they, I mean, there was 3 days of parties in July, after 4th of July. And we had a good time. That was another thing that made Boca Grande special, was the sense of coming down to, you may not be a fisherman, but you were at the street party.
And also at the beach.
Oh yeah, I mean, the community, we had probably, when we were out in the past fishing, you know, you've all been here, the fishing is so close that we had 300, 400 people at the park, you know, watching the fishing. And with the radio chatter and things like that, when we weighed the fish, we brought the barge in to a special place. I mean, literally 220 feet from the beach, so you can see us bring the fish in. And that reminds me of Becky Patterson and Art Patterson. Art Patterson, we decided to do this fishing, but we needed a way to weigh the fish in the past. We didn't want to drag them to shore and things like that, so we made it so we could weigh them in the past. It would just take minutes to get there, and more fish would survive. This is conservation. More fish would survive. So Art Patterson built us a barge in his yard. It was big. It was like 60 feet long, 30 feet wide. It had a split down the front middle. It was like a pontoon boat. And you could actually bring the fish right in. And again, the conservation, the chamber bought the scale. Like when you catch a load of tuna, you got to transfer it to another boat. When they're transferring one boat to the other, they put it on a scale, and that scale costs like $3,000. But by the time the fish get to the boat that's going to process them, they're weighed. Okay, and very accurately. So we bought that scale so we could lift the tarpon out, get a weight on it in seconds, 5-6 seconds, put it back in the water. So a lot of fish swam away, and that was important to us because conservation. We're still working on conservation. That was the tournament, though. Okay?
Laugh lot. You gonna talk about laugh lot? Laugh lot.
Mm-hmm.
You gonna talk about laugh a lot?
Laugh a lot? What's that?
It's that place down on the beach.
Laugh a lot. The band didn't usually start until 10. But again, it was a mainstream part of life for all these parents to blow off steam. And we had bands. The Boca band kind of started back there, but then we had, that was before they were.
They had a few local bands come in, but mostly it was Boca band. And
Can I tell them that I'm still breaking up bar fights?
sure.
Oh, she, not Isabel, but her daughter.
Donna? Yeah. Melissa?
Melissa breaking up bar fights. I mean, you get to fight in front of her, and she would end it. Yeah, she may not hit you, but she blocked you. A couple nights of that, but it was. I mean, this I would love to dance And so the dance floor was always full. We closed the place down. Yeah. And it was close to my house. I could walk home.
Where was it?
It is South Beach now. It changed the name. Actually, it changed the name 3 times. It was South Beach, Traditions. And then to South Beach, I think.
Yeah.
The original bar was Albatross that was down at the Phosphate, and then it moved when they built what was called Laugh Lot.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I mean, it was the Laugh Lot, I don't know how many years, but every weekend it was filled to overflowing, dance and dance and dance, everybody. It didn't matter, you know, whether it was in the wintertime or the summertime or whatever, everybody was in town and would end up at the Laugh Lot by the end of the night. And all the Gasparilla guests, all the people from the beachfront, you know, and anybody that was in town. I had girlfriends coming from the center of the state and said, "We got to go to Laugh Lot. We've heard you talk about it so much." And everybody had to go to Laugh Lot, and it was always a fun time.
Yeah. On my list of her names is Betsy Joyner. She was one of them. We had even the I can't say they were special in any particular way, but Glenn Boyette and Rich Cagarelli were our police officers, and they were embedded in this community. And I think because of them being here, when we got a new sheriff at Fort Myers, they would try to change it. They would try to say, "Well, we're going to rotate cops in and out of here." Said, "We don't want cops rotated in and out of here. We want them to live here. You know, we want them to live here long. You know, and Rich and Boyette were here
Jake,
for years.
yeah, they raised their children here.
They raised their
Yeah.
children here, and another group of brats running around. And they're still in the area. I think Rich Cagarelli actually retired from Lee County and then went to work for Charlotte County Police, and put in a couple of years with them, and but he's still here.
And Rick still volunteers for the tarpon tournaments.
And that Rich Cagarelli reminds me of spaghetti dinners. Because Rich Cagarelli and I don't think we ever missed one. My job wasn't really that pretty. I had to cut onions. but I didn't miss any. And every time we started the community, the spaghetti dinners, we started, 7 o'clock in the morning, preparing for that. And Nat Italiano, Rich Cagarelli, that's it.
Wagshaw's. Ingrid Wagshaw.
Ingrid Wagshaw was a volunteer that never came. Usually the board was doing the primary work, but the spaghetti dinner was to raise funds for kids. Spaghetti, they diverted into contributions that we paid. We didn't pay them a lot of money, but they got something. But all the money for the spaghetti dinner went to scholarship. We did learn anyway. It was fun, and we fed the community 3 or 4 times a year.
Yeah, I miss those days.
Yeah. But that was an era that I don't know when it started again, but it was. We had celebrities at the spaghetti dinners. World Series baseball players, vice presidents.
What was it, $5 a plate too?
Pardon?
It was $5 a plate there for a while.
Yeah, when we went to $7 a plate, we thought what was going to end.
And Isabel Wittendorfer was the one who was always collecting the money. She made sure that was all everybody paid when they came into
Right.
that.
Right.
About
Let's-
the Dirty Dozen?
Oh dear. Who owns the bridge now? Oh, we do. There used to be a group on the island we called the Dirty Dozen. And we did financial things together, pool our money and buy something. And we decided that we should buy the bridge. And some people, it didn't happen. And it didn't happen because people didn't think it would make any money. Biggest mistake that we ever made. Then we tried to buy the Railroad Plaza. Bang beat us to it. I think
I was gonna say, how about the choir at the Catholic Church? New Year's Eve, Christmas Eve, Catholic Church.
You ever heard of a men's choir? Well, back in the day, when all these kids were running around, Mark Shimitsky, who played organ, couldn't read music, played the organ for the Catholic Church. And we had this very informal group of men that would meet at Mark Shavitsky's house, probably like 9 o'clock, New Year's Eve. No, Christmas Eve, Christmas Eve for rehearsal. So we planned this a lot. We packed that church. It was filled so people could see and hear the men's choir. I don't think I moved my lips, I never let noise but there were people worse than me in it. I'm going to name Don Carroll. Don Carroll could sing, usually standing next to me, and I would have to literally move. But we filled that church, and it was there. I ran across a picture of us the other day. There were probably like 20 of us. You know, we sat in the back of the church. They kept us at the back so we could sneak out. But yes, there was Steve Seinsticker, Mark Shavitsky. We even had some solo artists that were pretty good. I think somebody at the end was really
Terry Bissett, I think, was in it.
Terry Bissett, yeah. Yeah, that was a good group. Thank you for having that.
What about, you got a story about Mickey Crawford and delivering the beacon?
Mickey Crawford. Mickey Crawford was the CEO of Culligan. Okay? He lived here, and he was part of our group. But one of my jobs that I was really proud to have is I personally had to deliver the paper by boat to Cabbage Key, Yosepa, Bokeelia. That was my job. You could not have my job. You know, it was mine. And people coveted this job. I mean, I would go, today I'm going to take the papers out to Cabbage Key. They want to go? They're all filled up. And Mickey Crawford said, no, what he said is he came by my office and said, I want to take the papers to Cabbage Key. And I said, oh, no, that's my job. You know, I didn't have no, I want to take the papers to Cabbage Key. So okay, let's work something out. You can take the pictures to Kevin's gig. Are you gonna charge me? He says, no, I'm not gonna charge you. But you have to do one special thing for me. I want a flag on my boat that says I'm working for the Boca Beacon. I got this guy, who's well-heeled, begging me. Well, he almost forced me, begging me to take the pictures out the Kevin's gig. And I made him the flag. And he did it for a long time. Very reliable. And Mickey, can't tell that story. Mickey had a way to get to Cuba. Okay? He had a Mexican friend. And so, Mickey, I didn't get to go on this trip. I wanted it so bad. Mickey Crawford, Terry Bissett, Mark Shavitsky. That was probably the trio that went there. Snuck in to Cuba with the Mexican connection and Mexican person connection, got them there. And they were down there in Cuba partying. I think the stories I remember about them coming back was that they were trying to tip, this is like a Canadian resort. Canadians had invested a lot of money, so there were some really nice resorts on the coast. And so they were going there, and they were I think they were kind of looking for investment ideas and how we could make money by going to Cuba. But when you meet, they were very friendly people. All the people were wonderful to us. But like I remember them trying to tip a taxi driver in American dollars. They said, no, I can't do that. We get caught with that greenback, we're dead. So they got it. They got back to this country. And it was a great trip. Great trip. They brought a few illegal cigars back. I think they did that. Cuba reminds me of Nina Houghton. And Nina Houghton, as she was just telling you about the Widen's Marina, the marine part of the marina, getting hurt at the registry, the historic registry. It was Nina Houghton who financed that. And her contribution gave all the ammunition and the bullets to make that possible. Nina, off the radar, Elian, remember Elian, the little Cuban boy who floated to shore? Okay, he became a political pawn. Okay, Nina Houghton got involved and took Elian to her, I'm going to call it a house, but it's much bigger than a house, in Maryland, where she was from. Nina's was Steuben glass and Corning glass.
Corning and Houghton.
Houghton Publishing and things like that. So she was a really big benefactor on this island, and I'm really pleased to call her my friend. So she took Elian to her house in Maryland. Then she invited his entire class and family. She brought the class and family from Cuba to her house. So Elian was like an exile. He couldn't move, and so So she brought the family to him. You know, unbeknownst, she just brought him up. And then he, I think he ended back, they took him back. That was the end result, they took him back. So then the school invited Nina down. Okay. And she went. And she was talking to me, she says, what should I take? I need to take something down there. And knowing, I mean, what's the national sport of Cuba?
Baseball.
Baseball. She took down a couple of cases of baseballs. Yeah. So, that's not the end of the story. She was staying at the Havana Hotel in Havana, and I guess she's getting ready to leave or leaving that day or something, and she gets a knock on her door early. Like, just early, I can't remember if it's 6, 7, or o'clock or whatever. But she goes to the door, and she opens the door, and it's Castro. He had come to thank her. The bodyguards, the entourage, Castro, and Nina. Yeah. So, that was impressive. That was impressive for him to do it. It was impressive for what Nina did. She was a very big factor in this island. I was going to take one fun story about the Air Force, if you don't mind. I was in the Air Force, Vietnam. I ended up in the B-52 squadron. Okay? And my job was training officers on B-52s to do certain things, classified. And so I grew up wanting to be a pilot. I wanted to fly all my life until I flew B-52s and B-50. I wasn't a pilot. And so anyway, so I was on a training mission a couple of times, several times, and we would take off from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan and fly for 13 hours. We'd take off, we'd go down to Miami, in South Florida, there was a bombing range, and the one near Sebring, so we would drop 10 bombs there. And we'd fly and go do electronic warfare things, we'd try to mess each other's radios up. I gotta back up. We took off there, and the first thing we had to do was refuel, because B-52 can't, with a full load of fuel, their wingtips, they have little wheels on the wingtips to keep them from dragging. So they like to take them off empty. And with a 13-hour mission, you might as well spend 45 minutes taking on fuel. So we fly up to about 42,000 feet and meet a tanker. And the neat part about this story is there's a pilot and a co-pilot. Pilot and co-pilot. It's a helicopter's the other way around. And I'm sitting in the IP seat, that's instructor pilot seat, in the middle, okay, and I can see everything. And right over my head, literally, right there, is the receptacle for the fuel to come in the airplane. Okay, so the planes, we fly up to it, we're following it, and you talk about formation flying. You get so close and stay right there, and then the boom operator takes over, and he flies boom to your airplane, and then sticks it in, okay? But you've got, there's 8 engines, 8 throttles these guys are trying to control to keep the plane, you need a little off, So they're getting it close to that. Then it sticks in, they take on fuel, you got to hold it still for maybe 5 minutes, and it takes on a lot of fuel, like 20 tons of fuel. And I'm sitting here thinking, you know, it's cold. I mean, we're at 40,000 feet in a plane that wasn't built for passengers. There's 2 of us up in there, and then there's 4 in what we call the wine cellar. They can't see, they don't have windows. There are 4 electronic fuel officers, engineers, things like that. And so it's a crew of 6. And then they can't see anything. And then they know we're 20 feet away from the plane going 400 miles an hour. And it's cold. I mentioned that. And then I look at the captain. I mean, he's a major, actually, he was flying the airplane. And the back of his helmet, the sweat is dropping off his helmet. I mean, he's sweating bullets, you know, and it's 40 degrees I think. So that was showing how stressful it was. I mean, they're all on the throttles are all white knuckles, but the sweat just pouring out of his helmet. It was like, holy cow. So anyway, we fly there, and then we go into what's called terrain avoidance. That means don't hit the ground. Okay. and so we're going down, and the B-52 has automatic controls. It can control like a Porsche. It's sport mode, so you can go boom, bouncing around, or we're smooth, and it'll fly between 500 and 50, down to 50 feet at speed, which is classified, near 500 miles an hour. Okay. And then when you're going 500 miles an hour at 50 feet off the deck, the throttle is like this. The plane is just going crazy. And so we're flying along, and we're in the mesas down there where these, you know, like the things that were in ET come up out of the ground, things like that. And so the guys in the wine cellar say, "Do you see that bluff over on the right? We have the bluff in sight. Do you see the 2 bluffs on the left? We have them in sight." And I mean, so we're literally on the deck, and the terrain avoidance is set for 50 feet. So we're coming up on a bluff. The next bluff we're going to go over. Okay. So we're coming in. Let's say this is the bluff, and the plane comes in. Realizes it's got to climb, so it just bolts up. Okay. Now we're headed to the top of this bluff, and the top of this bluff there's a Volkswagen camper. The closer we get, I can see their faces. I can see people running. I wish I could have talked to them, because I don't know what went through their mind except this B-52, but it's going to crash into them. So, I'll end the story with, I wanted to be a pilot, but after a 13-hour mission, several 13-hour missions, taking off in the coldest part of Michigan and landing in the coldest part of Michigan, messed it up. I did not want to be a commercial pilot after that. I still flew. I still, you know, had private planes and flew to the Bahamas a lot. But
Did you ever smuggle anything while you were flying?
I smuggled my brother. We, in a plane there, we were building a house, repairing a house. And so my brother was a contractor. So we put him in the airplane. And then we packed all the tools and nails and supplies around it. And with doing weight and balance for the plane, when I took off, we were 6 pounds overweight. Okay. And I didn't worry about it. I thought, because basically, in doing the warm-ups and all that kind of stuff, and getting ready out of the taxiway, doing a run-up check, you burn 6 pounds of fuel, that's about a gallon. And so everything was fine. So I take off. I never taken a plane, except for B-52, I never took a plane off, small plane, at weight that much. So I took all the runway. But when we got to the Bahamas, 2-hour flight, I skipped that part and go back to my brother. He's the illegal cargo. Okay? I haven't told him yet that he cannot tell customs that he's there to work. You know, they will turn and send his ass back. He's vacationing, things like that. So back to the airplane. So the airplane was doing beautifully. They did a great job. It was a Cherokee 6. It's built to carry anything you can stick in. And coming down for a landing, coming very slowly down, everything is perfect. And when the landing is made, pulling power. At the last minute I pulled the power, I was probably 4 feet off the ground. The plane came down like a sack of potatoes with all that weight, just boom. You know. So that was my flying lesson.
And now you're a sailor.
I'm a sailor. I like airplanes. I want to learn navigation. But the airplane, the wing on an airplane is the exact same thing as a sail on a sailboat. So if you do one, you might as well do the other. So I've always sailed. Love sailing, been to sailings. I kind of learned hand in glove. I made a lot of mistakes and I could make the boat move, I couldn't get all to go where I wanted to. So when I got out of the service, I went to Sanibel and took the Steve Colgate sailing course. And that's cemented it. That made, okay, now you're a good sailor. So I could buy a boat. I could buy a bigger boat. I could buy a bigger boat. So, what do I have to do with the boat now, Cheryl?
For sale.
They made 2 movies that I know about, and some more. They made Hoot here, which was about the burrowing owls, you know, and that movie was here, and it was written or
Carl Hyacin.
Jimmy Buffett.
Carl Hyacin. Oh yeah, Jimmy Buffett was in it, but Carl Hyacin wrote it.
He wrote it, yeah. Carl Hyacin wrote it, and Jimmy Buffett was in it, and then we had another.
Out of time.
Out of time.
Out of time.
Out of time was the Denzel
Out
Washington.
of time, yeah.
Yeah, out of time. And the most exciting thing about that one was they used my office
Yeah.
and my staircase in the movie.
Denzel.
And Eva Mendes was in my office. Denzel Washington was not.
He's on the steps.
Any other
Yes,
questions? Was the Queen ever here?
No, I don't think her boat was. Britannia
Yeah.
came here. I got in my boat and they anchored offshore because they couldn't get the boat in the harbor. It drew some fantastic thing, but they were not going to take the chance of doing it. So I saw the boat twice. Once I went out, and I had to circle it, but there were guys following me around, and so I didn't get very close. And then the other time, they were anchored off of, they like to go to Yosemite. The Queen wasn't on the boat, they didn't go to Yosemite either. But the interesting thing about this story is Joanna Banks, who's been in the story, was Marty's daughter, married a British sailor. And I'm not quite sure, I'm sure that trip had something to do with it, but I don't know exactly how they met and things like that. But I remember I had a really big camera lens, 600 millimeter camera lens, and I said, this is my chance to use it because they won't let me near the boat. So I go over to Cayo Costa. I'm lying on a sand dune. I've got my camera lens packed in like a tripod, zeroed in on the boat, and the Coast Guard finds me. What are you doing? It's just the camera is. There's no scope under, or no gun under the scope. But I keep getting a little trouble that way.
I just want to say, welcome, Linda. Linda Edick is here. She got here a little bit late, but we're so happy you're here.
Dusty, I have a favor to ask of you. I have been in touch with the University of Florida to get the rights to reprint my husband's book, Fisher Folks of Charlotte Harbor. It's been out of print for years now. Amazon is selling it for $4,500. So I am going to get the rights, and I'm going to set up a fund to help me publish the book again. And I wondered if the paper would put the announcement in when it's
We would love to.
very good. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to be real careful with who I let look at my book. The last time I looked on Amazon, it was like 150. But that was used, but that was a year ago. We're so thankful to be able to celebrate Bob, as always, all year. Thank you, Dusty. If anybody wants to come up, I'm sure he's got lots more stories. But thank you all for coming. Next week, Captain Van Hubbard will be here to talk through the eyes of a fisherman. And I didn't think about it until this morning, but I guess I had a theme this year. It was the Boca Beacon. Last week was David Budge, who wrote for the Boca Beacon, and we have the owner and publisher. And next week, Van Hubbard writes for the Boca Beacon. Didn't have that in my plan, but there we are. It's all about the Boca Beacon this season.
I've got one thing I got.
Dusty's just going to tell you one more story.
This is not so much the story, but I promised I'd get it in. I have been quoted once in other publications about something I said about the island. Actually, there's two things that were both written in travel magazines. Like one of them was that on Boca Grande, you could go to Miller's Marina, sit between two fishermen, and you could not tell which one was the millionaire. There's just no differentiation. Two, someone asked me about the Beacon, what's it like working at the Beacon? And they quoted me, so I have to tell you. Every day is different, but every year is the same.